Hi, this is Tashina.
And this is Jonathan.
And this is
Abandoned Ship.
a sci-fi podcast where we are going on a 4-year mission with Deep Space Nine, baby.
Yes, we are a few episodes deep now, getting into the swing of things.
And today's episode is Season 1, Episode 4, A Man Alone. So we're getting an Odo-centered episode today. Last week was Kira, now we're going to Odo. So we've already talked about how this episode and last week's episode were originally switched. After watching this episode, I have some ideas why that might be. Do you want to leave it till like at the end of the episode after we go over everything?
Sure.
Okay. So we'll pin a pin on that right now. And I guess let's just get right into the episode. We open with Dax and Bashir. Where is Dax?
In a holosuite.
Is it a hall? Okay, it just looks so tiny.
Yeah.
Compared to what we usually see.
Because it's the same one they're in later when they're looking at the scene of the crime. Yeah, the core holosuits are very small.
Yes. Okay. So Dax is in a holosuite. She is playing some kind of game puzzle.
Meditation exercise.
Yes, because she's like doing a meditation pose, and Bashir comes in, and this whole opening, Bashir is laying it on so thick,
very thick.
Like, Bashir, have some chill. Like, he has zero chill, zero, to the point where it's a little uncomfortable sometimes. Where I'm like, it's too much.
They definitely lay it on thick.
Because he is trying so hard to get with Dax. His obsession right now is Dax. And the whole time he's talking with her, like, they're not even hints. They're, let's go out to lunch. I have champagne all night. Like, don't you want to be with me? And she's like, whoa. Slow down, buddy. She does explain to him that she's working on a puzzle, and it's this spear that's in front of her that has like different colors on it. And I guess through this meditation process, you have to solve something to make it a solid color. Yeah.
So it looks pretty tranquil while Dax is hooked up to it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and also before this, when he walks in, she pulls a little Polmo Adib on him. I'd recognize you by your stride, Gurney Halleck. And recognizes Bashir as he walks in.
I see some Paul overlap with Dax. I see it. So, of course, Bashir's like, puzzle schmuzzle, that doesn't seem too hard. And she's like, yeah, I've been working on this for 140 years. So he gives it a try. And of course, as soon as it gets transferred over to him,
chaos.
The bubble just burst. And I'm just like, boy, is that indicative of what's going on?
Yep.
And of course, this whole time he's like, let's go to lunch. And then Cisco walks in, and Dax goes with Cisco to lunch.
Yeah. So of course, Bashir's like, oh, of course. He's after her.
I have no chance if the handsome commander is after Dax. So we go to Quark's. There's a few different things going on here at the same time. First, we see Odo and Quark talking about how pretty much business is booming with the wormhole.
Yeah, they have a pretty long conversation here that bounces between a few different things. Actually, all 3 plot lines of the episode are covered in this conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, they talk about, the wormhole, life.
Mm-hmm.
They see Keiko and O'Brien having like an argument on the upper level.
That's pretty much all you're hearing from them upstairs.
They see Dax, and Quark's make comments about Dax, and they talk about this whole Dax relationship subplot. And then finally he sees, the person who drives like the A plot later.
Yes.
So it's just very interesting, this conversation, like it really covers everything.
Yes.
And in a pretty, the Odo Quark scenes are always great.
Oh, yeah.
I do know that they rehearsed their scenes together.
It shows. I think they do
have a really good, like,
great job.
Back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so circling back then, yeah, our first one is O'Brien and Keiko having a fight, and Odo goes on his marriage is terrible rant.
Yeah, he doesn't.
His
he
boomer
doesn't
humor rant.
understand the need for humanoids to couple, and then Quark comes in with a, "You've never coupled?" Like, I'm wiggling my eyebrows since this is a podcast and you can't see me.
I'm sure Odo would be great at it. All sorts of things.
It's so funny because it's a PG show that's on like a major network, kind of how some of the lines have to be a little wink wink, and that's definitely one that's dripping with.
And especially since I don't think Odo meant it that way. He meant it more as like being in a relationship.
Yes.
But of course Cortex says you never couple.
And Odo says he just chooses not to. It causes too many compromises.
Yeah, he does a little boomer humor here with like, oh, you compromise, which means doing whatever she wants to do. So now you're miserable. Marriage sucks, right, guys? Like, this is an interesting one. I don't feel like it fits his perspective on, I don't see the need to be in a relationship makes sense for his character.
Yes.
But this specific perspective on it is kind of weird to me. I guess maybe knowing Odo for the rest of the season, I don't feel like he's ever been in a relationship, period. But this makes him sound like a jaded divorcee or something where
it's like, who hurt
he's
you?
like, oh, I've been around, and 5 divorces, and I just can't deal with women anymore. It's like, this feels, Odo's more of a person where, yeah, I've never even tried to, because he's obviously a very uncompromising individual. So that makes sense. But just the examples he used is like, this feels like someone else talking through him.
True.
It felt like a writer had a beef. The writer had an ex-wife, and he
yeah.
wanted to get his thing in there. And it feels a little bit like I feel like the whole like argument is a little bit dated 90s stuff.
Oh.
And it feels like he's being talked through a little bit. And they sort of tangentially attached it to his actual character, was actual character thing. I just thought it wasn't quite like delivered.
Yes.
Like, I think you could have done this a little differently where it made more sense for Odo, not some...
Yeah, because I get what they're trying to convey, but yeah, the execution is not great. Because I can see him not understanding why humanoids couple, like why they are making these compromises. Why are they going through, as he sees this fight, he's like, I don't understand. Why would you go through that? Like, he doesn't understand. There's some missing piece that he doesn't understand why you would make this attachment. Where people, have been in good relationships, have been in love, they understand not only the importance of compromise and, sometimes you fight, but why it's worth it. And he doesn't understand why it's worth it.
Yeah.
Because, if you don't understand why it's worth it, it does seem like, it seems like a lot of trouble. I mean, she's going to make you listen to Klingon opera.
And I think if they had focused more on that, it would have been better. The fact that his only argument was, you always do whatever your wife wants.
It comes off very boomer. Yeah.
And it isn't even relevant to the fight they're witnessing. Because
Yes.
in actuality, the fight they're witnessing is that O'Brien came to the station in spite of his wife's, like his wife did not want to come here necessarily. It didn't seem to quite line up. It didn't quite.
It was clunky.
And what is otherwise a really great conversation between the two. That one was
yes.
ham-fisted.
It did make me laugh. Like, apparently Odo just really hates Klingon opera. I'm like, geez. And this is where they see Dax and Sisko. And they talk a little bit about them, but mainly it's Quark is hot for Dax.
Oh, yeah.
Like, really. Apparently everybody just loves Dax immediately, which I think she's a great character, but I'm surprised by like how much attention she gets right off.
It's the hairdo.
Maybe it's that. I don't know.
People in Star Trek can't resist a good do. And a big old wig.
And then at this point, Odo looks across at the Dabo tables and he sees the Bajoran man that he has a very stark reaction to. Like, whoop. And then we go to Sisko and Dax's conversation. They're back and forth. And they are clearly just friends.
Yeah.
It's so funny how in this episode, especially Bashir is like thinking there's something there. And every conversation I see with Dax and Cisco, I'm like, no, this is platonic. Like, they're just really good friends.
As a Quark says too, like, he knows that they used to be old friends, and therefore that's probably what it is. But yeah, Bashir's too young and inexperienced to know what that's like.
It's so...
Does he have any old friends?
I know. It's so weird. It just comes off a little immature, a little high schoolish, where it's like boys and girls can't be friends sort of vibe, which is interesting because these are supposed to be like mature Federation officers, but like
it's not straight out of the academy, Bashir.
Exactly. But there is some adjustment, and because she's a completely different host, and she even says like, sometimes friendships don't last this crossing, like this transition. But you could see how much Cisco's like, no, this is important. He wants to make it work. Yeah. It's just uncomfortable.
Yep. And she says, I suggest you get comfortable with your discomfort. Which is pretty good advice. Like,
yes.
For life, dealing with people who are different, dealing with relationships that might be awkward, is discomfort. Sometimes it's just part of it. And you just have to be okay with that and not dwell on it and make you do cringe Bashir things.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely sound advice. And I'm really glad throughout the series this is a platonic relationship.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, 100%.
Because, and I like the will they won't they's. I like the getting togethers. But I'm like, no. This is one case where I'm like, I don't feel any of that. They are truly just friends. So I'm glad it stays that way. And they don't try to like force something there.
No shipping.
No, exactly. We're not shipping these two. There's plenty of other ships on this station.
Exactly. Literally and figuratively.
So after their conversation, we go back to Odo, and he confronts the Bajoran man, and he's just like, get the hell off my station. I'm like, bye-bye.
I decide who does or does not have rights.
Exactly. Like, whoa.
I am the law.
He is a bit Judge Dredd in this episode. And they pretty much get into a little scuffle, a little fight. That's Cisco comes running in. Mm-hmm. He gets a little concerned look when, after he breaks it up, Odo's pretty much yelling at him like, you have 26 hours to get out. And Cisco's like, oh, God, what now?
In case anyone's wondering, 26 hours seems oddly specific. That's because that's the length of a day on Bajor. Yeah, they mentioned it a few other times throughout the show, but I don't think they ever say it explicitly.
That's fine. We don't need to be spoon-fed.
Exactly.
Right? So now we finally go to Keiko and Miles to kind of get an idea of like what is going on. Because Keiko had walked off at some point during that conversation. So Miles goes up to her and says he can ask to leave DS9, but Keiko fears that he'll lose his promotion.
Yeah, so clearly, he was on the Enterprise, probably not a lot of upward mobility there, especially as transporter chief. So it's okay, he got a promotion, was reassigned, and went to Deep Space Nine. But obviously, that is proving difficult for someone with a family in such a tenuous position on this Cardassian station on the frontier.
I mean, yeah, I guess environment. I guess things were always dicey on the Enterprise, but at least you can like walk around and not feel.
Yeah, true. Which one is more? Like, do you want to raise your child here, Miles? Like, well, no, but we almost blew up every other day on the Enterprise.
I think it's just the life, Keiko. I get her concerns.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Yeah, on the Enterprise, it's more. What would you call it? Exterior threats, but you can roam the halls very safely. Here, I guess you still have exterior threats, but it's less so because it's a station. It's a little more stable, and it's trade and commerce and all that. But it's a little less little less day-to-day safety and structure.
I mean, as we see later on in the episode, you could be walking all of a sudden caught up in a mob, you know? So
imagine living at a truck stop or at a port or something.
So I get her concern, especially for their daughter, Molly, because you also don't want your kid to just be stuck inside their house.
That's definitely, especially now, like with us, now that we have a kid, like you can definitely, where you want your kid growing up really, factors into your decisions. And so, so she basically talks about how, so there's two things, one is she feels useless because they don't need a botanist.
And I really related to that line. She's like, I just want to feel useful.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, but we have ships that are going to the wormhole. And she's like, yeah, but I'm not on those ships. And he's like, but I can, finagle some deals. And she's like, but I don't want favors. Like, I get she wants it on her own merit. Like, she doesn't want it to be where her husband's like, nudge, nudge, you should take my wife.
Yep.
So it's like, I get that. She wants to be useful. She wants it on her own terms.
Yeah, and then she sees Jake just like wandering on the promenade, and that's when she makes her second point, which is, do you really want, your daughter growing up here?
Just kind of leave it there, yeah.
Yeah, and then right at that, before he can respond, O'Brien gets called away.
We just have a quick moment where Jake and Nog meet. Friendship that lasts the series.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really quick. Nog is just like, ugh, human, why are you? Get away.
He's really laying it on thick with his voice here, too. He's doing like a human.
And Jake's like, yeah, I get it, but like, who else are you going to be friends with on this station? There's not many kids our age. And I guess Nog was like, yeah, sure, whatever. I guess we'll hang out.
And so a friendship is born.
Yeah. So we cut to Sisko's office, and this is where Odo explains who the man is and their background together. So the Bajoran man is Ibudan?
Yep.
Yes, I got it. Pretty much Ibudan was not a very moral man when it came to the occupation. He was in it for himself and for the money. And Odo even was like, I saw him withhold medicine from a sick child because her father didn't have the money.
Yeah, this is one of those gray areas where he was technically helping Bajorans, but for a price.
Yes.
So his legacy is all mixed up. There are some who consider him a hero because, again, working with the Bajorans, helping the resistance, and he even ends up killing a Cardassian and getting put in jail for it, and Odo is the one who put him there.
This was like, then why is he out of jail if he killed somebody? Odo's like, the provisional government, kind of doesn't see that as a crime, killing a Cardassian.
Yep.
Which, that in itself, it's like, okay, I understand, but you don't just let everybody go kill a Kardashian. That's somewhere where I feel like you would review the cases.
I think it's just, it's too politically hot to touch.
True.
The only way to sort through it, especially since a lot of this evidence, I mean, here's the thing, we've seen how Cardassians do evidence. I think, in a tumultuous time, you basically have no choice but to just do a blanket pardon.
I guess with their way of getting people into prison, most likely.
I'm sure there are maybe some specific people. It becomes more of an opt-in than opt-out. Like, they blanket pardon everyone, and maybe if there were specific people who they knew, who the resistance specifically knew was a bad seed, that they probably took care of them. But yeah, this guy manages to escape by. He has a good enough rep with most people. It was really only Odo who saw him for what he truly was.
And Sisko's like, okay, I mean, it sucks, but I can't really do anything. Like, the provisional government let him go.
Can't take the law into our own hands. To which Odo says, watch me.
The law?
I am the law.
What law? The Cardassian law? Bajoran law? Which he does have a point with, like, back and forth and how everything has changed. So it's hard to, like, just go by the law sometimes, because what if the law is immoral? And so I get his point, but he's also like, justice is justice. And as we see, sometimes it's not. So I think
we get
Sisko's ending speech is a really good rebuttal to Odo's speech here.
This gives us some insight into Odo's character because, yeah, he's not someone who cares about just rules for the sake of themselves. He has his own internal code of justice that he views, and it makes sense for him. He's a changeling. He's like an outsider, so he has this sort of observer, outside perspective looking in. He sees the chaos that goes around with all these solids, and so he doesn't put much stock in their rules. He falls back on his own sense of justice, which, as we find out later, is like a trait of changelings. They have this sense of order that they want to establish.
Yes.
So this is our like first hints of that.
And the I'm for justice, it sounds good, but the thing is, what if your moral compass is off? And that's why laws are important. It's like, but I understand with laws, then what if the society's moral compass is off? So Odo treats the situation black and white sometimes with like justice. But I think with both justice and the law, they are not black and white because it's depending upon the society or the individual.
And I think you bring up a really good point when you talked about how he has a sense of justice, and then later the mob justice, that's them acting on their own internal code too.
Exactly.
And so you get to see two sides of the same coin, where oftentimes in these TV shows, the good guys often just do whatever it takes, to get the job done right, and they'll bend rules, especially in like cop shows, detective shows.
Oh yeah,
they always bend the rules because it is assumed
that's what noirs are built on.
Yeah, it is assumed by the audience, by the writer writing it the way it is, that this is the good guy.
Yes.
What they are pursuing is justice. They are in the right.
The ends the means justify the end?
The ends justify the means.
The ends justify the means. I know. Whatever that line is.
And I think this is what this meant is to show that, that not everything is, in real life, you can be wrong. You are fallible. And you can see the two sides of the same coin where the mob acts on what they think is justice, and hopefully that shows Odo, or the audience at least, like, this is why rules and procedure and the trial process, that sort of a thing, why due process is important.
Yes.
To check our own biases and our own preconceptions.
It's like, it's not perfect, but it's all we got. I'm glad I watched this a second time, because I think the first time it seems more about just general discrimination against Odo, which it is. But I think this idea of justice and law is also a really strong theme throughout the episode that I really got more of the second viewing.
Yep.
We go from here to Ibudan getting a little massage in the hollow dick. And then all of a sudden, a black figure comes up and shoots, knife right in the back. Dun dun dun.
Very feel like classic films, like the black glove knife.
Giallo.
Yeah, if it had a little more gore, it would have been Giallo. Very Giallo.
And then we just go to Jake and Nog, getting up to some mischief with. What are they, like little bugs?
Bugs, I guess. He says, like, what are gnats. They? Garnian bolites. I'm like, okay.
Okay. Sure.
What are those? They don't elaborate.
We'll find out later.
So yeah, they're getting up to something, but now we go back to Dax and Bashir.
Bashir, you have no chill. He's laying it on so thick in the scene. And Dax is like, Trails don't see relationships like humans. Like, we don't go after them like you guys.
Yeah, Dax like, it's a weakness of the young. We tried to live on a higher plane. This whole dialogue, I think, out of universe, they are clearly trying to write her character a certain way, being like the Spock.
Yes, that's
something where, no, I'm a joined species. I'm on a higher plane, with a meditation at the beginning. Like, it's all very that.
Which is weird, because Dax gets a little freaky
Dax
later
is
on.
not like this at all later. I think once she as an actress starts asserting more of her own personality with the character, it makes it way more interesting. This is all boring crap that they were clearly trying to shove onto her. It doesn't really work. If I have an in-universe explanation for this, I think she knows she's saying bullshit, but she's just toying with Bashir.
That was my in-universe explanation, too. She's just trying to push Bashir away. And deep down, she's like, oh, no, I'm going to let loose as soon as this dude is not looking.
But yeah, so he's basically confronted about, oh, it's you and Cisco, isn't it?
I can't compete with Cisco.
No, it's not you, Bashir. I just don't pursue relationships with anybody. Okay. Well, that was a lie. But yeah, so then he gets called away for medical emergency in the holosuite.
Mm-hmm. It is here that we see the mischief that Jake and Nog are up to, which is Nog puts these little bugs on a couple people and it like
make them itch and they start changing colors and then it like fades.
It's
like so basically
it's a prank.
Yeah.
It's a harmless prank.
Yeah, they're filming them for their prank YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Just to prank the road.
They would have a prank YouTube channel.
But they get caught by security.
And Keiko witnesses this whole thing.
Yeah, so that's like, oh, okay, she's figuring some things out there.
So pretty much at the holodeck, it's just the start of the investigation. And they see where the killer left the holosuite.
Yeah, the key things here are...
How he got in.
Yeah, the door only opened twice. When he went in and when the killer left, and there were no one beamed in or out. So how was that possible?
Got a mystery on our hands.
And Odo starts putting it together what's going on already. He's like, it's not possible unless...
No, I think that's a little later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a couple scenes later he gets into.
I thought it was right away. No, yeah, no, that's not.
Yeah, it's not until he investigates the room in the next scene that he's like, oh, crap,
Okay, yeah.
I'm being framed.
So right now they're just like, well, okay, we don't know how he got in, so stop all ships.
Mm-hmm. So Keiko is talking to Miles and pretty much like, kids are getting into trouble. They have nothing to do. Which, yeah, the prank is for the most part harmless. But I do get the concern with boredom.
Oh, yeah. This is how a lot of juvenile crime starts, is just boredom. Kids need structured activities.
We see it in our county. Like, my mom lived in an area similar to this. And pretty much the only thing to do on Friday nights was go to the mall. And they have, like, a Target as its anchor. So, not a lot of options.
This is why public education is so important.
And not only public education, which is definitely valid, but also avenues to be involved in other things outside of school, too. Because, like I said, Friday nights, like, literally all we did was walk around the mall. Like, it was so boring. And I got kicked out of a Target because we were so bored. I was on their most wanted list.
Oh, boy.
I'm joking. But I was really embarrassed that my group got kicked out of the Target for being rowdy. Like, we're just...
Oh, man, causing a ruckus.
We were causing a ruckus. And, of course, I was in my good girl stage. And I was like, oh, no, I got kicked out of the Target.
My life is over. I'm going to be arrested. It's going to call on my record.
I'm like, you're not going to call my mom, right? I think for Keiko, this is a great idea.
Yeah, what she says, well, these kids need the school.
Yeah. It's like, oh, are they just doing homeschool in their room?
I think they're doing nothing. Well, I guess, no, yeah, they implied that Jake studies at home, yeah, but it's like without, it gets kind of boring.
I think Nog is doing nothing.
Nog is doing nothing, yeah. Jake's doing some studying.
He's working. He's child labor. Okay, how do you pronounce the Bajoran man's name? Is it Kava?
Kava? Isn't it?
Zava. It's Z-A... Is it Z-A-V-A?
It's written Z-A-Y-R-A?
Y. Oh.
Zyra? Zara?
Apparently, the closed caption on the episode didn't get it. So how are you pronouncing it?
Zara?
Zara?
Zara? Sure.
Sure.
Let's
We'll
say
go with
Zara.
that. We just need to have the same pronunciation, whatever it is.
So yeah, this dude, he's in Cisco's office. He's a Bajoran, operates the Transit Aid Center. And he's like, oh yeah, I spoke to Ibadan before, he was murdered. And he told me he was afraid for his life, that Odo was going to kill him.
And we saw him in the beginning. He was right by him at the
he was
Dabo
with
table
Ibadan.
when that fight broke out. So, other Bajorans witnessed this fight. Odo said, you have 26 hours to get on out. So
Looks pretty bad.
it looks bad. And now we go to investigate his room. Oh my God. Ibudan's room. And he has a double room. There's an extra bed. They're like, oh yeah, he asked for one. Some people just like the extra room. And Odo's like, oh, okay. Pin for later. And then he goes through his calendar and he sees that the time he was murdered, he was meeting with Odo. And I think that's where Odo's like, shit, I'm being framed.
Yep. I like also just this whole schedule.
Oh, did you see what the schedule?
Tennis. Just more shopping at the promenade. More tennis. Lunch at Cork's place.
I know. When you're on your vacay, do you have and it's just you. It's not like you're going on a vacation where you have tours or activities.
This feels very boomer like.
Yeah, it's just, you're just chilling out at the promenade doing different stuff. Do you schedule that out?
Yeah, then it's just Odo. Dun dun dun.
Here we go back to Keiko.
Yeah, there's a lot of jumping around this episode, I guess because they're juggling 3 different plots.
It is a lot of jumping around. I have a lot of arrows on my notes. Keiko is talking to Cisco and Jake. This is where she asks Cisco about the school and, asks Jake, would you be interested? And of course, Jake at first no, I guess so. And Cisco's on board. He's like, we will get you what you need. He's like, but we can't force anyone to go. It's on you.
Yep.
Good luck.
And you're going to be dealing with wildly different cultures when it comes to what they value, which comes into play not just in this episode, but later.
Oh, I also wanted to note that Cisco's going down a little hard on Nog. You can't be around that boy.
And that's,
It's kind of a harmless prank. And I wanted to note that because Cisco and Nog's relationship is very interesting throughout the series, but starts off really contentious. He does not like Nog.
And continues into future episodes. Yeah,
yes.
At this point, Nog is the guy who got his kid in trouble.
Yes.
Right? He's a bad influence. He's a Ferengi. I mean, Ferengi prejudice is an interesting subject in this whole show. A lot of times it's the butt of the joke.
Yes.
But at the same time, there is and it is justified in many cases. The Ferengi are what they are. There's also some cases where it is just prejudice.
Yes.
And I think it's interesting that Cisco is not immune to it.
That's the point I want to make, is that Cisco, great commander, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have his blind spots. And I think he knows how to work with Frankie. It seems like he works well with Quark on a personal level. My son being friends with the Ferengi. It set off something in Cisco that I thought was interesting, and it goes on.
What's interesting is that maybe it's because he's so good at working with Ferengi that he has these blind spots, because he feels like, oh, I understand them now. This is what Ferengi are like, which allows him to do business with them effectively, but it also means he has set up those blinders for himself to see the Ferengi in a certain way based on his experience and his research. So it is founded in something, but he over applies it where it shouldn't be.
Because as a parent, it is hard to balance. Ferengi definitely have some troubling values.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, Jake's getting older. And at what point do you trust your child to be able to make friends and be able to hold on to their own values and not change because of someone else? Because that's the fear, right? Nog is going to influence him. It's I understand the worry, but at the same time, at some point, Jake has to be his own person.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes,
also, there's like
more-
12 kids on the station.
Yeah.
So, that's what you
more-
got, buddy.
more themes of family and
Mhm.
parenting coming in here from a few different angles.
Yes.
All right, so we exit out of that one and come to the infirmary.
Did I miss that? All I have is...
Basically, it's just like some sciencey stuff with
Oh, okay.
Bashir talking about, okay, there's DNA traces in the holosuite. And
The big thing
no
is that
DNA but ours, so no one was there.
no one new entered the room.
Yeah, so they're like, how's this possible? If you went in alone, no one was there, but someone still left. And this is when Odo just comes out and says it because he realized what's happening. He's like, this isn't possible unless you're a shapeshifter. I can get through the cracks in the door.
Yep. Oh, he knows where where everything is heading to.
Which is interesting that he just comes out and says this, but I guess his own personal code is like, there's no point in hiding it. I'm just going to be upfront with everything, even if it condemns. He's literally condemning himself, following his code to a T, I guess.
Yep. So we go back to Keiko, and she is talking to Rom, and she's trying to convince Rom to send Nog to her new school. And I thought this was a great moment for Keiko. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people give Keiko shit in the fandom. And I'm like, I like Keiko. I at least I understand her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she's very capable, and you see it here because she understands Frankie culture. She understands them. She didn't go into this not knowing anything because, of course, Rom is like, why you, a human female, should be teaching my son? Like, that doesn't make sense. And she puts him in place like, your son is going to learn all this information about different cultures and gain this knowledge to help him be a better business person in the future, because knowledge is power.
Yeah, she's pretty smart about phrasing it in a way that appeals to sensibilities. Like, he's, oh yeah, you've done a great job, Rom, teaching him your knowledge. It's like, yes, I have. But this is going to give him an even bigger advantage over his competitors. All this his business terminology, because
get that capitalistic lingo out.
We're going to teach him how other people do business and all this stuff. So yeah, it's a very smart approach. The whole scene is great because they're like walking and talking as they go, so it has a lot of energy. And
because he's busy. He's a busy man.
And Keiko's basically chasing him around trying to make her argument.
Also, it made me as the viewer understand her qualifications to be a teacher, because in a second, like, she's a botanist. And I'm like, okay, yeah, so that she could teach the kids, but what about general education? Like, I wasn't sure, like, her qualifications. And after this conversation with Rom, I'm like, oh yeah, she's capable of teaching these kids.
Yep.
Also, does Rom get dumber as the series goes on?
Absolutely.
Because I was taken aback by how eloquent he was on the scene.
Exactly. He plays Rom right now as a very typical Ferengi, and he does a really good job of it. He does so good a job of it, you almost I had to disconnect my mind, like, oh right, Rom later is not Max the actor. They're different people. This is more...
We need to keep an eye on, like, when he starts becoming dumb and see if we can come in with a in-universe explanation on, like, what happened. Like, did Quark do something to him?
Right.
Did he hit him too many times on the head? Like...
Because here, he still doesn't come across great. Like, he clearly overvalues his own abilities to teach his son, because clearly his son has not picked up anything.
Yeah.
She's clearly appealing to his ego. He's like, I've taught him everything I know. And so you can put two and two together and go, oh, so he is actually an idiot, right? But at least has this keeps up the facade a little better. Whereas later, the Flanderization starts really taking over. And
there's no facade.
Now he's an idiot on the outside and the inside. Right now, he's just an idiot on the inside.
Yes, I'm interested to see when the churn happens.
All right, so yeah, that conversation ends, and then we go to our little Bajoran troublemaker group, including Zarya or whatever.
Zarya starts to form them up. This is the beginnings.
These guys are always interesting to me. So when we were watching it, I called them the Deep Voice Club of Bigoted Bajorans.
And they are acting, especially in the mob scene later. They are acting.
The lead guy just has this voice.
I asked him, like, have we seen him?
He has to be in something.
Something else?
I should have looked him up.
As this character comes back, because the feeling is almost like this character is going to show up again, like the way he is presented in this episode. And so the fact that this is his one and only episode as his character, I'm like, wow, really? I thought we saw him again.
So the lead guy has this really distinctive deep voice and his way of talking. And then there's this other Bajoran who's also really, but he's always just like really put it on his face is always at a 10, just going, who? You're right. I'm the shapeshifter. Just like, calm down.
And he brings up an interesting point, though, that...
Oh, yeah, he manipulates well.
Why is Odo still security chief?
You know, Odo was in charge when the Cardassians were in charge. And the other guy's like, you're right.
And now that it's switched over to Bajor, a part of me does wonder, like, oh, I wonder why he's still there. Is it because of the attachments he has with, like, Kira and stuff that were able to vouch for him?
I think Kira's part of it, but I think it was in the pilot, maybe.
Oh, maybe.
There was some episode where they said, they made a mention that Odo, despite working for the Cardassians, was trusted by the Bajorans.
Okay.
Because whereas the Cardassian justice was well known as being a farce, they could tell that he was impartial.
He actually was trying to get evidence.
So he's not like someone working for the resistance, but he didn't work against them. Okay. So there was a sense of trust that he did keep the worst from happening.
That's true, but it does give fuel.
But it still gives fuel because there are always those. The Khon Ma, we saw that in the previous episode, where if you're not with us, you're against us. If you're not with us, you're a collaborator. There is no riding the line. Yeah, there are definitely those fuel. And that's what he's appealing to here is he worked with the Cardassians. He's a collaborator. Yeah.
But Quark goes to bat for Odo.
Yep.
He's like, y'all are fools if you think that he was with the Cardassians. He had no love for them.
Yeah. His opener is, he's an ill-tempered, overbearing crosspatch. But he was no collaborator, and he's no killer.
Yeah.
And Zarya says, can't believe you're defending him. You're his worst enemy. And Quark says, guess that's the closest thing he has in this world to a friend. Which is really sweet.
Yeah.
And sad, but sweet. And it gives you kind of a sense of their relationship too. Mm-hmm. Which we see more of a little later.
Yeah, but they have an argument that's pretty heated. So Bashir goes to do a sweep of that second bed, the infamous second bed in the room. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why this got to me, but he's getting the samples and everything. He gets one sample and he looks at it and it's just a tube of air. And he's just like, I accomplished this. And it's a sample in there, but it looks like he's just staring at nothing. And like, I did it.
So clearly he's found something.
The Bajoran mob go to Cisco to voice their concerns. And Kira cuts him off.
Yep.
She's like, we heard you. Have a nice day. Bye. But both Cisco and Dax are like, this is a conflict of interest, which it is.
Yeah.
I think it's so funny that both Kira and Odo are like, burr, 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 about this. But I'm like, I'm sorry. As soon as Odo is a suspect, he should have been taken off the case.
This is why rules are important and why Starfleet likes them, because it avoids situations like this.
Because, yes, I believe that Odo is impartial. The thing is, the Bajoran people here are already riled up and upset enough. They don't understand that he's impartial. And honestly, it is so easy. He could have changed evidence at any point.
Yeah. So basically, Cisco says, I'll be relieving him of duty. Yeah. Kira, throughout this whole episode, Kira is very defensive of Odo. So you can tell there's some obviously they've known each other and trust each other. So yeah, Kira's very pro Odo. And I guess we can bring up here with the previous episode why they were probably swapped.
Yes.
Because she basically is pretty hostile with these other Bajorans. And the previous episode was all about her confronting
Bajor first.
her Bajor first, like, feelings and
Yes.
what the future is for Bajor, and it would have been a little bit of a weird transition to have this come first and then
yes, I think it would have been like, huh? But
punch, like you said, going from punching Bajorans to yay Bajor.
also in the last episode, she had a really heart-to-heart with Odo. So I think that also helps us understand in this episode why Kira backs up Odo so hard, even against her own people. Like, she's like, no, he is innocent. So I think that also helps that understanding.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's coming out of nowhere.
Because everything else, like, yeah, there might be some funny stuff, but I think for the most part, that was probably a good decision to switch, because I think the last episode set up more for this episode.
Yep, agreed. Back in the infirmary, basically just some techno babble here, but they find out that Ibudan was doing some sort of biological experiment in his corpse.
Experiment. Ooh.
They found this like biological sample, and it's like breaking down into DNA, and they're like, what's going on? So Bashir's trying to figure it out, but they know he was up to something. It has something to do with DNA, but they don't know what.
And they can replicate it. So throughout the rest of the episode,
yeah, so they basically just start his experiment again and see what happens.
And this is where Cisco calls Odo and tells him he's relieved, temporarily relieved of duty. And he tries to tell Odo, like, I believe you are innocent, but we have to do this. And Odo kind of comes back at him. He goes, how? How do you know that I'm innocent? You don't know me. Which is true. Like, they kind of just met.
Yeah, again, it's another interesting, like, Odo's basically continuing to bury himself, but he likes people to talk straight to him, and he doesn't want to feel like he's being lied to. And for him, it's like,
or babied.
Yeah, or babied, yeah. And yeah, he's like, especially at this point in the show, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, nobody knows him. Not only that, nobody knows him as a person, but he's a changeling, so he's really not like anybody else. How could you possibly know me enough to say that?
And he thinks there's probably some little...
There has to be doubt.
Crumb of doubt in your mind. So Odo leaves to go to his office, and it has been ransacked, and it's Shifter is written on the wall.
Hey, Shifty.
Well, I didn't know it was some kind of like bad slang.
Shifty's more of in terms of endearment. Shifter is the slur.
Shifter is the slur, okay. And just, it's devastating seeing his office all jacked up. Quark comes in. He's like, you want me to find out who did it? And I was like, it doesn't matter. And they've like got heated back and forth after Odo tells Quark that he's not in charge anymore.
Yeah, it's interesting. This is a really great conversation because there's so much bubbling up from the surface. They're basically play fighting, like
they're the ultimate frenemies.
Yes. You better take advantage of my absence while you can. Oh, I will. I'll have every conference man in the sector on board by tomorrow. You do that. And Odo's like, you do that, and he sort of cuts off. And Quark's like, what? Like, I think Quark's really trying to, because Odo's kind of defeated at this point. And I think Quark, in his own way, is trying to get him, to keep him engaged, keep him fighting. So yeah, they have this little back and forth. It's pretty cute.
Yeah.
And you sort of see, their relationship here where, frenemies is good way of describing it.
And he drops a little info on Odo. He said he was looking to see, like, if he made any enemies in the prison, Ibudan. He's like, no, he didn't. He mainly hung around the dissidents, Bajorans. And then he's like, wink, wink.
Yeah, drops some nice info. Which is interesting that Quark has been digging into this on Odo's behalf.
Yes. Time is money. To
a Ferengi,
the capitalist, that it is. And he's spending his valuable time helping Odo. So I think when, especially Quark and his value system, when he is giving up time to something or someone, that's when you know how much he actually values that person or that thing.
Yep.
Bashir is still working on our experiment, which is just a giant old blob, kind of gross. And he mentions here that the experiment has humanoid DNA. And Cisco and Dax is also there. And Cisco goes to Dax. Want to have lunch? And Bashir, because his back is turned, he goes, yeah, I'll have lunch. And then Dax goes, oh, sorry, I can't. And so Cisco is stuck going to lunch with Bashir. And I'm just like, oof. And, oh, man, this lunch. Bashir is pretty much just grilling Cisco about Dax. Like, he wants all the information he can get about her. And, again, Ben is trying so hard to, like, we are just friends in this conversation to Bashir. We're going to get no trouble from me. Please leave me alone.
If I was to give Bashir any credit in this whole episode, I would say he at least is showing, like, interest in who she is as a person and her interests.
True, it's better than Quark, who's like, oh, yeah, body.
Like, even the holodeck at the beginning, like, again, if I was to give him any credit, even the holodeck at the beginning, he does, like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'll try it. And even after she leaves, he doesn't just, like, well, this isn't going to get me any tail dump. Like, he tries it, he keeps going on it. He's asking Cisco about, like, what she like how, she wants to understand this whole Trill thing. So
yeah, because it's not that Bashir's not a bad guy. He's just
out of his league.
And out of his league. Yes. 100%. Yes, he is out of his league.
And also, at the very least, Dax has not, like, definitively shut him down to the point that if he kept trying, it would be very creepy.
Yeah,
because that's the other thing, especially watching 90s TV. You're always watching for, like, because a lot of them cross the line in terms of, like, there's always that, like, the wearing them down sort of trope.
Yes, I think it's just hard because it seems like she really does want to be friends with Bashir. I think that's why she hasn't given, like, a hard close down, but it's still cringy when he's trying so hard.
Oh, definitely.
And I feel like she's giving him not only verbally, but, like, please, I'm not interested. Leave it be, Bashir.
This time around, I was just trying to watch for if she ever trying to get an idea of where her head is at, and I was trying to look for that trope where the female character is obviously not interested, and is making it clear, and the guy still is pursuing it. And I don't think she does.
Yeah, I'll have to keep a closer eye on that. I just Bashir.
Because that gets real uncomfortable real fast.
Yeah, and he's so good at what he does. Like, he comes in clutch in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm like, I want to be on board for you, Bashir. Stop it. So
cringy is fine. I just don't want him to cross over into
yes,
creepy stalky.
Yes.
Cringe I can deal with for now as long as
We go to the new school, which is being set up. And Miles and Molly come to visit Keiko. And Molly is so cute.
Oh, yeah.
I love Molly so much. And she's about 3-ish.
Probably am.
3, 4, around there. And so they bring her a present. It's really cute. She opens it up, and it's like a old-fashioned, like, school bell. Look like something from Little House on the Prairie. Again, our Mark Twain cosplay.
Yep.
Keiko voices her concerns of she doesn't know if anyone is going to be their butt shake.
Uh-huh.
So she might be more of a tutor. Now, while they're talking, all of a sudden, we hear voices out in the hallway. And it is the mob. They are coming together. They are following Odo. Odo sees where the wind is going, and he goes into his office and locks the door. So he's looking out through his office, the window. Well, this mob of Bajorans come out. Well, Bajorans and
Morn for some reason.
Which I would also take that he literally just got swept up in the crowd. He has
no idea. What's going on, guys?
What he's doing. So Miles comes out. He sees this forming. he asks for backup. He also tells Cisco what's going down. So everybody's going down to Odo's office to try to break up this mob. So while that is getting together, we go back to Bashir, and they find out this blob creature has gene sequence degradation. And here, Bashir has like a light bulb moment, and he's like, ah! But we don't know yet. They go back to the mob. Cisco pushes his way up front. What the hell? To the Bajoran. Things go downhill for a little bit. There's some fighting. Someone throws something at Odo's window and it breaks.
Kira punches some Bajorans.
Odo comes out, and this is where Cisco gives his speech about, because he's like, what are you trying to achieve here? And they're yelling, justice. And he goes, this is justice? He's like, if you want justice, take your evidence, go to a court. This is not justice. Because in the minds of the Bajoran people, like, there is discrimination at play, but it also looks bad for Odo because his DNA was there. Only a shapeshifter could have gone in. He threatened this man, like, right before he died. So I can see in their mind them thinking this is the right thing to do. This is justice. This is moral.
Especially coming off of an occupation where you've been denied justice for decades. Being able to finally take it into your own hands is very tempting.
But this is why you have to be careful, because there is discrimination at play. And that is going to mess with your moral compass. And Cisco's right. He's like, okay, you have the evidence. Go to a court. Or, go to the law and we'll arrest him. But this is not how you do it. Because the main guy, he's like, oh, how do you put a rope around a shapeshifter's neck? And it's just
like
pretty
explicit.
Oh boy, because we're into like lynching territory, which not good.
And I think Cisco specifically standing up to this mob is very poignant.
Yes, because he knows human history. They do calm down a little bit and are listening to Cisco, but still like really volatile. And thankfully, Bashir runs in and he's like, it was not.
Yeah, we have new evidence.
What's his name?
The man who was murdered is not Ibudan.
It's not Ibudan. It's a clone.
Yeah, so they figure it out. Ibudan cloned himself, went in with his clone to the house suite, I guess. That's why there's only one DNA, and killed his own clone, and then left. So wraps it up nice and perfect to make it look like Odo did it.
And they're looking at the humanoid blob in the tank, and they say in a couple of days he'll be a full human, he'll be a clone, and gets to do whatever he wants. I'm like, oh God, we're creating life.
Yeah, no, it was kind of like, oh yeah, then he'll just get up and start walking around again. I'm like, well, hopefully he doesn't do the same thing. It's like, that's a big assumption.
Also,
how does this clone work exactly?
Also, the fact in this world, the clones are just like, clone schmone. He'll be fine.
Not another one. It's done with all these cloning things. Too many clones.
So they're like, okay, well, then how do we find him? And Odo's like, I got an idea. And the whole time with this mob, keep seeing this shadowy figure, like his little cloak.
Looks like an older Bajoran.
And we go to his room. There's a chair, and ta-da, chair becomes Odo. Odo confronts him. His name is like Lamoni or something.
Lemonade.
Lemonade.
Lemonade S, which sounded to me almost like a pig Latin thing trying to disguise your name. But.
And he's like, I don't have a record of what ship you came on. Because, where'd you come from, dude? And his name is one of the dissidents, right? It was like,
No, no, it's just that he is Ibudan, and he says that he looked up the Bajoran dissidents that he stayed with in prison, and one of them was an expert on cloning.
Oh, I thought that was the expert on cloning was
Lemonade.
Lemonade.
No, it was just.
Oh, I don't know.
Just a made up name.
Okay. Oh, I thought he took his name from one of the dissidents.
No, yeah, it was just a made up name, cover name.
Odo gave me too much information at once. Anywho, Odo attacks him and takes off his face like Mission Impossible 2. And it's Ibudan.
It's a good thing he was right, or we would have ripped that guy's face off. Whoops! Sorry about that, Mr. Lemonade. Let me put that back on there.
It is solved. And, because a clone is a person, you killed a person, even if it's your clone. So you's in big trouble because you're going back to jail.
I was saying when they realized that other one was a clone, I'm like, quick, kill it now before it gains sentience. Tuvix it, quick.
Tuvix. All right, so we end with school starts. First, it looks like Jake will be the only one there. And then all of a sudden, we see Rom dragging Nog in, throwing him in a seat, but not near Jake. He's like, no, you sit over here. You're not next to that human.
So they're both dealing with prejudices.
Yep.
And he says, we'll
try. We'll try it. And 2 other Bajoran kids come in. So they have 4 kids, so good start. Hey, it's better than 0.
Get a couple kids, you got yourself a school going.
So Keiko starts her lesson, and Cisco looks on with a smile and a nod. And that's how we end our episode.
Yep. Got our school. Odo's vindicated. Don't know what happened to the Deep Voice Club of Bigoted Bajorans, but I guess they've dispersed. I should look up to see if that guy was in anything.
You know he was.
Da, 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 da.
He was so distinct. There's just no way he's not been in another episode.
Not one episode. I don't see any Voyager here. I guess just
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. Whole bunch of 90s and 80s credits.
Oh, yeah. I can see that. I can see him being a character actor.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, what did we think about A Man Alone?
Well, I'd give it a 6.7 out of 11 scale. I mean, I thought it was pretty good. They had a little bit of clunky moments.
Definitely a lot of similarities with, I think, our last episode.
Yeah, but they did a good job balancing all the 3 plot lines, I think, to give the station some life. Like, there's a lot going on.
Yes. Sometimes almost too much. There's a lot of back and forth. But that's probably my only, big complaint was that it was just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And you're right. Definitely some boomer writing.
Yeah. But it was a little more solid on the acting front. I feel like there wasn't as many stilted moments as in the last 2 episodes.
Yeah, our lead Bajoran villain was great.
And also just
the mob.
Yeah. There's a lot of just character development moments that are really pivotal to the show too. I kind of feel like the start of this season is stronger. We're gonna get into some rougher ones. So right now we're still
rough waters ahead, yeah.
Yeah, right now we're still riding the high of getting to know the characters, introducing these key things about how their minds work and stuff like that.
I definitely think that was a smart approach after the pilot. Okay, now let's really get down to our kind of, Cisco was the focus of the pilot. Now what about the main people around him? Let's get more information because we're going to be with them for seasons. So I'm glad we took some time to get to know them and kind of the world of this space station, how things are going to kind of flow.
And again, just like the last few episodes, basically everyone has something to do or some character moment that gives you more about them. Quark, Odo, Bashir, Dax, O'Brien, even Keiko,
and
Cisco, everybody.
It might seem like, oh, why did they focus so much on Keiko in the school? But so we see, isn't it towards the end of
that comes in
season?
That comes in big later.
It's huge. There's a reason why they're focusing a lot on the school.
And also, I think it's just fair to
the Keiko moment.
O'Brien and Keiko both, didn't have a ton to do on Next Generation. So I think it's definitely nice if you're going to bring O'Brien over to give him more development. Yeah, give Keiko something too.
You gotta give Keiko something.
You don't want it feeling too one-sided.
Other than plants and becoming a small child.
Yep. Yep. All right.
All right, so we did it. Another episode in the can. Yeah, what is our next one? Is it
next
Babel?
Is Babel, I think.
I don't know anything about the episode. Yeah, I can't remember anything about it. All right, so it's going to be a surprise for me.
All right, see you next week.
All right, see you then. Bye.
Bye.